Ladies and gentlemen, seeking the truth is the obligation of this committee. I can see no point in going further. I have no expectation that Ms. Lerner will cooperate with this committee, and therefore we stand adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement. I have a procedural question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a procedural question. Mr. Chairman, you cannot run a committee like this. You just cannot do this. We're better than that as a country. We're better than that as a committee. I have asked for a few minutes to ask a procedural. And now you're turning me off.
In that unprecedented moment when Darrell Issa adjourned a hearing without allowing any other member of the committee to speak, he not only violated committee norms and protocols, he committed what one House of Representatives parliamentary expert has called a fatal error. Joining me now is attorney Stan Brand, who has served as general counsel to the U.S. House of Representatives under the speakership of Democrat Tip O'Neill, and NBC's Capitol Hill reporter Luke Russert, who broke this story. Stan Brand, you have advised the committee, Elijah Cummings, and the House of Representatives that what we just witnessed on video there is a fatal procedural error for the investigation of that committee, specifically in regards Lois Lerner. Explain to us what you saw happen there.
Well, these proceedings, Lawrence, aren't beanbag. They're legal proceedings with very strict requirements. Before a witness can be held in contempt, they have to be given, in the words of the Supreme Court, a clear-cut choice between compliance and not compliance. So before the House could successfully prosecute her, leaving aside her claims of Fifth Amendment immunity, they never gave her in direct order and overruled her objection. They simply adjourned the hearing and moved on. So a central element of the offense, which is her deliberate refusal to answer, could never be sustained in a court of law. And
the offense, Stan, would be contempt of Congress? That's what they would take in?
Yes. They would refer her to the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia under the criminal statute, and the government would have to prosecute her in a court, and they would have to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that she deliberately refused to answer. Well, without giving her the clear-cut choice between answering and not answering, they failed the key element of the offense.
And there's a letter that we have obtained tonight where Elijah Cummings has written to the Speaker, and as I understand it, you helped advise Congressman Cummings in the legal grounding of this letter.
I did.
Luke Russert, you broke the story on the Hill today. What is the reaction in committee and beyond the committee?
Well, Democrats, Lawrence, understandably, are very happy with this interpretation of the law. It's not been a good day for Democrats. Our NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows President Obama at 41%, the David Jolly special election in Florida. And this is an issue that they've been paying a lot of close attention to because they felt that Chairman Issa has overstepped his boundaries in the investigation of Lois Lerner. They've reiterated the point to me that Lois Lerner was, in fact, last week ready to testify if given at least one more week to prepare a written statement and a testimony. Darrell Issa did not want to do that because a lot of folks on the Democratic side, and even some Republican aides will admit privately, what Chairman Issa would really like to do is have this contempt vote play out in Congress. Now, that's not going to happen this week. Next week, they're in recess. It could possibly happen in committee 2 weeks from now and then go to the House floor. John Boehner sort of put the brakes on Darrell Issa and his committee a little bit after that blow-up which you just showed with Elijah Cummings. But now, with Elijah Cummings and Democrats having this legal information, which Republicans right now, I should say, are dismissing and call it, or the spokesman for Issa is saying is flawed, it gives them some ammunition to go back. And if nothing else, Lawrence, what this perhaps will end up being is a legal question. If the House holds Lois Lerner in contempt, it then goes to a federal judge. And what House Democrats will say, is it really worth this amount of millions of taxpayer dollars to go through a parliamentary question like this in an investigation where the facts as they've come out have not directly linked the Obama White House to the IRS misgoings that occurred in Cincinnati in 2010?
Well, the Speaker of the House knows who Stan Brand is, and I don't care what the Republicans are saying. This legal analysis is being taken very seriously by the Speaker tonight. I just want to read, Stan, a reaction from Darrell Issa's spokesman about this, a written statement where they say, Chairman Issa specifically informed Ms. Lerner of the committee's formal determination that she had waived her Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions. Before asking a series of questions, he then offered her fair warning that a refusal to answer could lead to a contempt finding, which ultimately must be made by the full House of Representatives. What's your reaction to that statement, Stan?
The case has made clear he's got to overrule her objection in an explicit way. Yeah. And give her the opportunity to comply or not. Having failed that,
and the court looks for all of that specifically in the record of the hearing.
The congressional record in enforcing these contempts is abysmal. 80% of them are acquitted, dismissed, or reversed on appeal because of just such infirmities. That's the record of these cases in the federal district courts.
And let's go. I just want to show one thing before we go, which is what Issa himself said after that hearing about contempt, and is he actually going for contempt in this? Let's listen to this.
At this point, we will continue our investigation into the IRS targeting of conservative groups without the testimony of Ms. Lerner.
Are you considering contempt?
You know, that's certainly something that has to be considered. There's committee rules on it. I'll go through that. But like I say, we're going to confer afterwards.
Stan, there he is admitting right there, agreeing with you that he hasn't established the grounds for contempt yet.
And even if he did, he's got 2 years to wait for an outcome. You know, the easy way around this, Lawrence, if the narrative that the Republicans has is to be believed, that Lois Lerner was a tool for the White House and the Treasury, is to give her immunity and then find out what she knows. But they don't really want to hear what she knows. They want to beat her around the head and make her the poster child for this. In a real investigation, she would have gotten immunity in a New York Minute and been testified already.
And the truth
Lawrence,
is,
on that point,
go ahead,
I just want to go in on that point. There's a lot of accuracy there because that is something that Elijah Cummings has said throughout this process. Give her immunity, allow her to testify, and let's get to the bottom of this, because if in fact these allegations are true, the IRS did have more stringent procedures for allowing political groups to get registered in this capacity, that's troubling for all Americans, no matter your political stripes. And so far they've been reluctant to do that. Probably why? Politically, this feeds a lot of red meat to the base.
And they already have a complete record of her involvement here because they already have every one of her IRS emails on this subject, which is something the Republicans on that committee never mentioned, that they've already obtained those. Luke Russert and Stan Brand, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
My pleasure.
Coming up, an unusual partisan divide erupted in the Senate Intelligence Committee today, which usually operates in a very quiet, bipartisan fashion. Without actually mentioning Dianne Feinstein's name today, the Republican vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee said he thinks the problems that Senator Feinstein has been having with the CIA should never have been discussed in public. And in the rewrite, Rick Perry got booed just for walking on the stage of the Jimmy Kimmel Show last night. And then he got applause, including from me, for what might be the one thing Rick Perry and I agree on. Hint, you can smoke it, or bake it, or,